Following the central government's directives, it seems 13 states are in trouble. They've been barred from trading on the energy exchanges. These states have been barred for their pending dues, their power bills, which haven't been paid. Some of which have been pending for a long time, for more than 7 months, is what we understand. And now, following this report that we are talking about, the India Energy Exchange has confirmed to ET Now that they have received the circular from the government. My colleague Prakash Priyadarshi has been tracking this news, and he's here to break down why the states have actually been debarred and what it really means in terms of the possibility of power outages if these states aren't allowed to participate in the action on the exchange. Prakash, do fill us in.
See, 13 states have been barred from participating in power exchanges due to huge outstanding dues. This is the first time distribution companies in such a large number have been barred from participating in power exchanges. If you go with the Power Ministry data, 13 states have not paid dues to power generation companies for more than 7 months. As per, electricity late payments such as rule, discoms that delay payment to power generation companies beyond 7 months can be barred from participating in power exchanges. These states includes Tamil Nadu, Telangana, Madhya Pradesh, Mizoram, Jharkhand, Bihar, Rajasthan, Andhra Pradesh, Maharashtra, Karnataka, and Chhattisgarh. And total outstanding dues on these states are approximately 5,000 crore. Sources in the Power Ministry have said that these states have been warned several times to clear dues before taking such a decision. Now it will be difficult for these states to meet power demand, and will be interesting to see as to how and when these states are going to make a payment and what will be their future course of action.
All right. Thanks very much for filling us in on the current situation. And it does seem like a serious problem from the outset. But what exactly is a power exchange? A power exchange is a platform on which power is transacted. It's not a producer of energy, but only a platform to buy and to sell power. The concept of trading through an exchange provides traders a chance to choose the best possible prices. Now the center has barred these states, like we're reporting, from participating in the action at these exchanges, which means they will be strapped for choices when it comes to procuring the energy that they need for their own states. Let's discuss this further, the repercussions, why we've reached this situation. For that, Mythili Bhusnurmath is joining us, consulting editor at ET Now. Anil Razdan is also with us. He's the former Power Secretary. And Harry Dhaul is joining us. He's DG IPPAI. Thank you all for joining us tonight. Let's discuss this. Of course, we are talking about defaults on energy bills by as many as 13 states in India. And that list actually includes so many states: Andhra Pradesh, Tamil Nadu, Telangana, Karnataka, all the southern states. There's Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan, Maharashtra in the west, Bihar, Jharkhand, Chhattisgarh. That list is long. How did these states reach this point? In your opinion, Anil Razdan, have they not really been handling their finances well? Or at least well enough to pay their power bills on time? Why have we reached this situation?
I think we've been discussing this for quite some time, that these states have been using power or electricity as a social good, and they have been lax in paying off the commitments, the promised subsidized power or free power. The government departments themselves have also been defaulting. So it's not only the citizen consumer. So it's certainly a very reprehensible situation. And I think we are gradually coming to a situation where even leave aside a consumer, the state should have to pay as you take, more or less. And I think we may be reaching that kind of a situation, which I think may be the ultimate solution to the problem, as I see it in the coming term. Because, of course, the present situation that has arisen, I think they might try to get around by going to the courts.
Yes.
Or maybe forming their own state exchange.
All right, so that's a distinct possibility.
Well, let's see what happens.
Fair enough. But of course, this is the first time that power distribution companies have been barred from trading on the exchanges in one go. and that too in such large numbers. How significant is that against this entire backdrop of the freebies debate that was stoked by the centre, by the Prime Minister himself, saying that if we need to build infrastructure, then we should not be giving freebies like free water and free electricity. We've spoken about this, Mythili Bhusnurmath. Tell us how you see the connection working over here. Mythili?
Yes. Can you not hear me?
Now I can. Please go ahead.
Yeah. So I think, yes, it does remind me of the discussion that we had yesterday when we spoke about freebies. And the whole issue really is how does electricity to be regarded? Is it an essential service whose provision at low or zero cost is a necessary social good for citizen welfare? Or is it a commodity just to be bought and sold like any other commodity? That really is the crux of the problem, because electricity in our country has always been seen as a political issue. The pricing of electricity has been seen as a political rather than economic issue, which is why the problems of the power sector are not something new. There have been periodic attempts to reform the health of the power sector, particularly distribution companies, DISCOMs, but these have met with very little or almost no success. As Mr. Razdan knows very well, we've just simply had very little success in either reducing the AT&C losses, that is the technical and commercial losses, or also in improving the realization, the revenue that is charged, that is received by these DISCOMs. So it's essentially because state governments have not been willing to charge all consumers the rate at which they should charge. So agriculture has been subsidized, ordinary custom residential houses have been subsidized. So there's an element of cross subsidies, there's inefficiency, a whole host of problems like that. So I think unless state governments get the political will and really do something about reforming their distribution companies, we really will not see light at the end of the tunnel, I'm afraid, Vikram.
All right, so it's not going to happen anytime soon. Meanwhile, some of these defaulting states, they've said that they are working with the power plants and they're trying to pay their dues. But like Mr. Razdan is pointing out as well, a few of these states, they're expected to move the courts against the centre's electricity rules of 2022, the rules that were notified in June this year. So legally, as per that new law, I'm wondering, where do the states stand? Do come in on this, Harry Dhaul. Do you expect them to get some reprieve from the courts? Are there loopholes in the law that could help their cause, so to speak?
Start off by saying, I call this the bulldozer moment for the power sector. It's about time the DISCOMs realize that they cannot fool around with the power generators and suppliers without taking power and not paying them. This is whether it's the courts or whether it is the general public, everyone needs to realize governments have all the powers in their hands to give subsidies to whoever they want, but they have to pay the generators, those who are supplying the power, because it's not free. Second point, lots and lots of water has flown in the last 5-6 years. Many power generating assets have got destroyed, have got closed, have got shut down, have gone bankrupt, and the promoters of those projects have gone to the cleaners. They are absolutely on the street, literally with begging bowls, because these DISCOMs haven't paid. I want to congratulate the government, particularly the central government, for taking the step. I think this is a very major step that has been taken by the government, particularly the central government, in giving a clear signal that it's about time we got the house in order. And exactly as Mythili said, we need to get this thing sorted out. On your second point, yes, it is a possibility that they may go to court and basically ask for some relief under some loophole or the other. There are some very brilliant lawyers sitting in the power sector who could help out, but the problem is not going to go away. I think the main message that the states need to realize is they have to stop fooling around by not making payments to people who supply you for goods. When you go to a petrol station and you buy fuel, you are paying for it, no matter how expensive. You don't have this issue of government subsidies and all that nonsense coming in as far as that energy aspect is concerned. As far as the power sector is concerned, I'm extremely happy today for the first time in a long time. I want to congratulate the government for taking this bulldozer movement and putting things in action.
Let me take this across to Mr. Razdan. You started telling us about the possible scenarios that you envisage next. The political economy, of course, is getting shaken. The people's daily life clearly is at stake. Is it about grandstanding when they talk about the possibility of power outages, or are we talking about it as a distinct reality, because something like this would be unprecedented for the kind of situations that you may have seen in the past, and the tough stand that the center is taking, Mr. Razdan. How do you think you view it against anything that may have taken place similar in nature in the past?
See, we used to have long ago the power of so-called, within inverted commas, regulation. That meant that you could stop supplying power, say, from an NTPC station or a central station. But this situation you see of closing down, shutting down all entries of power, that is something which will necessarily have some political ramifications also, besides some legal implications. I would certainly say that yes, you have no business to keep drawing power if you were not paying. But then why not allow you to migrate to a situation where you pay as you take the power from an exchange? Maybe that route should not have been blocked, and that route may be challengeable in a court of law, because power is an essential commodity for every kind of service, including security setup. So I think, yes, the move on the part of the government of India is certainly a very sincere attempt to try and stop this business of uh, taking power and not paying for it, and also giving freebies which you cannot afford. Nobody can stop freebies, but provided you can afford it. You cannot afford to be generous at somebody else's expense. But what I would have probably thought is that you use this occasion to stop the normal power from, say, an outside, from a source where you have to pay later, but introduce a situation where, yes, you can buy an emergency power, but you pay as you take, as happens in a power exchange at the end of the day. It is an essential commodity, and I do not know where politically we may be able to hold out that long on that kind of a threat. I may be completely wrong, because I am, after all, a fuddy-duddy.
um, Mythili, do weigh in on the current state of finances that the states that are currently in the dock, as it were. What state are they in? Because obviously, when you're not able to pay your energy bills, we're talking about a deep-rooted problem. Have these states, over a period of time, got their finances in a mess? And is that the reason why we're seeing them in the situation that they are? And when it comes to power generation in the country, are we generating enough power that these states have been able to manage their resources well enough?
Well, Vikram, the problem really is that these states, in fact, one of the reasons why the debt of the states increased so much, because it was under the Uday program, they were, asked to take over a substantial portion of the losses of the discoms. The hope was that with this, the discoms' balance sheets would be cleared and they would start off on a clean slate. But instead, what we saw is that political parties across the board have not learned their lesson. The problem really is that in a federal republic, as Mr. Razdan was saying, it's essentially a political problem. So even though the center has been strong-armed right now in reading out the Riot Act, as it should, the fact is, how long will it be able to do it if you really have power outages and citizens in the country are suffering? So that really is the crux of the problem. Ultimately, if you give the states some kind of a rescue, give them some kind of rope so that they're able to pay the dues, ultimately this means that they're not able to invest in more essential items, things like health, primary education. It all comes back to the same thing. So ultimately the fact is state governments will have to bite the bullet. They will have to bring about the reforms in the power sector that they've been shying away from so long. Because as I said, this is not the first time. This is the most recent program of the government, which was announced exactly a year ago, was yet another attempt to reform the power sector. Unfortunately, state governments are most recalcitrant and are refusing to fall in line. But this is a problem if you're trying to live in a federal republic. Everything ultimately comes back to the citizen of the country. So state governments, and cutting across political lines, all political parties must accept that you have to charge for power. If you want to subsidize a particular segment, you do it through DBT, direct benefit transfer, not by distorting the price of power. Because ultimately, what happens is that generation suffers, and all of us suffer, especially succeeding generations.
Razdan, you spoke about the states perhaps taking the route of creating their own exchanges. Is that also a possibility that they could pursue, in your opinion? And if so, how tough do you think it's going to be for them?
This question is to whom?
Mr. Razdan.
Sure.
Well, I think you see it will involve a certain degree of engineering and friendly cooperation from the state regulators. But after all, the state regulators have been appointed essentially at the choice of the state government. And given that situation where citizens are and essential services stop because of lack of power, I do visualize a situation that states which have their own generating sources, I mean, maybe private, maybe whatever. After all, a generating station also needs to sell his power out. He cannot store it like wheat or rice or any other commodity. The electron must move out of the power station into some consumer territory. Now that, I think, is something that is going to hold the key, in my opinion. And yes, you can use bulldozers, but I think one has to be wise where to use them.
The wise words indeed, Mr. Razdan. Thank you so much for your perspective. Also, Mythili Bhusnurmath and Mr. Harry Dhaul, thank you so much for joining us on this important subject that we are talking about. The possibility of power outages looms large with the tough stance that the centre has taken with the states. Either pay up or you are barred from participating in the exchanges.